welcome into this week's episode of the Bear Down Buzz podcast, previewing this Rams and Bears matchup. Myself, Eli, joined by, as usual, Isaac and Joe here, once again on the Bear Down Buzz podcast. I think, fellas, it would be good to start with, once again, this is becoming a theme here, this laundry list of injuries, at least on the injury report, starting with the Chicago Bears, and as well as the Rams have a laundry list of injuries as well. But Joe, if you do have that pulled up, if you want to get into this injury report, excuse me, for the Chicago Bears this week, uh, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. So Thursday's injury report is obviously we're recording this on Thursday. We won't know Fridays because it's not Friday. But Thursday's injury report, Darnell Wright has a back injury, but he did practice today in a limited fashion, which is better than not practicing at all. Andrew Billings has a knee injury and did not practice today. Cameron Byard has a back injury and did not practice today. Rome Odunze went from having an MCL sprain to now a hip injury and was limited. And then Mercedes Lewis had a rest day. Dak Pickens was did not practice with his groin injury. Terrell Smith has a hip injury. Uh, Daryl Taylor is a knee/illness. He hurt his knee, I'm pretty sure, in Sunday's game, so that makes sense. And then Keenan was limited with his heel. Kyrie was limited with his hand and knee, and Braxton Jones was limited with a knee injury. Nate Davis practiced in full, even though he's back from the groin injury. And then Montez Sweat is practicing full and is back from his elbow injury. So those last two, well, Montez for sure, that's a good thing. Nate Davis, whether you like him or hate him, I mean, it's good that he's not hurt anymore. He can play if he needs to play. Um, but I think the the biggest, obviously the biggest injuries that are like out of practice, I guess, are Billings, and then even though Darnell Wright did play or did practice in the limited fashion, that's are still big names on the injury report. And then uh like I said, it's nice to see Keenan back out there. And then Kyrie Boston, hopefully he can play Sunday because we need anything to help us get the running game going. If he plays, I'm going to assume that he'll be in to help us run downhill. And Jeremy Fowler, we'll get more into this later, but Jeremy Fowler did report that uh, um, Roshan Johnson is expected to play a lot more. So using Roshan and having Kyrie in there to block if he's fully healthy is going to be very useful against a Rams defense that cannot stop the run. But yeah, I'll send it over to Isaac about this injury report. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the most concerning person for me is definitely Andrew Billings because he's been such a force on the defense for us, and without him, I don't know if we're gonna be able to generate a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford. And like you guys have noticed, I feel like every week the injury report just gets bigger and bigger, and there's more people, more things to worry about. Um, I do want to highlight one player, Darnell Wright. It was reported that during the game, towards the end of the game, he was dealing with that back injury, and I guess it's been something that has been going on since the offseason. It's always been kind of there for him, and he basically re-agitated it during the game against the Colts. And do want to ask because if Darnell Wright isn't good to go on Sunday, what would your guys' preferred starting five be for the offensive line? I'll start with you, Eli. So this is assuming that Darnell Wright doesn't play at right tackle. What would you go with at the starting five?
So I'm going to walk through it here. We've got Braxton Jones at left tackle, assuming Tevin's good to go, which I think he will be. So Braxton, then Tevin. You've got to roll with Coleman until Ryan Bates comes back, unless you want to make that switch. But he's there for now. And then at right guard, you know, It's tough because we've all struggled with Bates throughout his last 2 years here. Um,
Davis, Nate Davis.
Nate Davis, is that, did I say Bates?
Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. You knew what I meant. You knew, you caught on. Nate Davis. And then I've heard in years prior, no pun intended there, uh, Matt Pryor has struggled at tackle, but it's tough because he does have experience over a guy like Karan Amagaji, who seemingly has received a lot of glowing reports from this coaching staff. But um, if I'm the Bears, unfortunately, I'm gonna slide Matt Pryor over to right tackle and put Nate Davis there at right guard just for the veteran experience. I don't think Karan Amagaji is quite ready yet to start in this league. Give him maybe a few more weeks to kind of feel out the NFL and get him some more reps in practice, and maybe down the line he'll be ready to fill in there at tackle if needed again. But that's my starting five. Joe, what about you? What are your thoughts on the starting five offensive line rotation if Darnell Wright can't go?
But here's the thing. I agree with you with the current Amagaji thing, but also they drafted him in the third round to probably to play at some point this year. Well, not probably, definitely to play at some point this year when they could have drafted someone else that was like a defensive lineman. I forgot the name that someone was talking about today, but they could have drafted a defensive lineman instead and had him definitely play. But instead, they drafted a Quran because they needed an offensive lineman. So I, th- I like I said, I think it's a good idea to not have him play. But if Darnell Wright doesn't play, I can see him coming in and playing. It being Braxton, Heaven, Coleman, Nate Davis. Even though I don't. Here's the thing. I say Nate Davis, but last week he was healthy enough to play, and they didn't play him. They played Matt Pryor instead. He obviously came in for that one snap when Darnell went down, or not Darnell, but when Braxton went down. But other than that, he didn't play, so he basically got benched. Yeah, he's still technically came in the game with an injury, but he could have played through it and he didn't. Well, they didn't want him to play through it. Um, So it's hard. They might like Pryor better now, or they might just like anyone better than Nate Davis now. Who knows? But I do think Davis will start. I don't know. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's some people defending Nate Davis and saying he's not as bad as it looks. I don't really agree with that. I think Nate Davis has been not that good for the Bears, but I think they'll start him if Darnold doesn't play. If Darnold plays, I think they go with Pryor though.
Yeah, I would love, and I do agree with you that if Karan were to go, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea by any means because we've seen in the league before where a rookie lineman will come out and he'll be a diamond in the rough. That's kind of what happened with Braxton Jones in his first year. He was pretty serviceable for a fifth round rookie, and we thought we really had a diamond in the rough that first year, and we've kind of seen the progression go up and down throughout his tenure with the Bears. And I think he's a good tackle. I don't think he's a great tackle by any means, but um, like that's a great point that you mentioned. For Karan to be taken as high as he did, at some point he's going to have to contribute, whether it's solidifying himself as a starter someday, if that's the case, or if he's just going to be a swing tackle kind of guy, um, and a fill in like we're kind of debating this week. I don't think it's a bad idea for him to come in, and if he was to come in, obviously we're all going to hope for the best. But you bring up a great point that he's got to contribute at some point. So, just looking across these injuries, as we've kind of mentioned, I'll kind of switch gears to the Rams, who have had a laundry list of injuries throughout their first 3 weeks of the season. Obviously, the big ones we've talked about and the league has talked about is Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Obviously, Puka Nacua placed on IR, and Cooper Kupp will not be ready this week. Those are the two big ones offensively. And
Oh,
along the offensive line for the Los Angeles Rams, if I can pull it up here, we've got guard Jonah Jackson, guard Steve Avila, and tackle Joe Noteboom will all miss week 4. So this will be a really big chance. And we kind of said this last week as well. Um, this will be a big chance for the Bears defense to kind of get pressure on Matthew Stafford. But um, does anything stick out to you guys?
They're
And Isaac, I'll start. No, Joe, go ahead.
they're also missing a couple of defensive backs. I no, I'm gonna say this right. I was gonna say something else. It's John Johnson. They're missing him, and they're missing another defensive back. So they're missing
Um,
a veteran. Uh,
yeah, they're missing Darius Williams and one other player. I have it right here. Darion Kendrick and Darius Williams are two DBs that are out.
and then John Johnson is on IR.
Yeah. So there, and then Tyler Higbee was out since the start of the season, so there's a lot of injuries basically.
And they're very, very injured. Um, but yeah, go ahead with your thoughts on it, Isaac.
Um, it's just this, okay, I want to bring up a point really quick. I don't know, Eli, what you were gonna mention, but maybe this is it. Uh, Although the Rams are super banged up, this team was able to beat a 49ers team. Granted, the 49ers were also really banged up. Um, But I still am very worried about the game because I don't think that the Bears have it easy on Sunday for two reasons. One, because Matthew Stafford is still playing and he's a really great quarterback. And two is because the guy coaching on the other side of the field is Sean McVay, and he is by far way better than Matt Eberflus. He's a way better coach, and it seems like it doesn't matter how many injuries the Rams have, they're just gonna find a way to win. I don't know about, the game on Sunday, but in general, I'm just mentioning that they never seem to give up. And Eli, what were you gonna mention earlier?
No, you were right on the money with it. It's going to boil down to a coaching matchup, as we kind of mentioned in the last episode. But um, this is a chance for the Bears to kind of come out and say that it's not a fluke that this team can win games in spite of their coaching staff, which obviously isn't a great thing. You don't want to hear from any organization, but this roster is talented enough to beat this Rams team that's beaten up. Now, if everybody were healthy on both teams, I'd give the edge to the Rams just simply because of the coaching staff. But this, like I said, this roster is capable of beating this Rams team, even with Sean McVay. It's just a matter of we've got to clean up the little mistakes that we've seen through 3 weeks, whether it's Mercedes Lewis jumping off sides. That's something that can't happen for a guy that's been in the league for half of his life. He's got to get that cleaned up. The offensive line has to get their penalties cleaned up. Cole Kmet's a guy who's had some trouble with penalties this year. Just across the board, uh, coaching decisions, play calling, personnel usage. This is the week that we kind of have to get this cleaned up because going against a guy like Sean McVay, even with, again, a banged up squad like they have, they took that 49ers team, as you mentioned, Isaac, which is, again, one of those teams that even when injured is going to give you everything they've got. And that was a coaching battle, and Sean McVay won it. So while the Bears are facing some injuries, getting a guy like Keenan Allen back, if we're going to have our top three receivers, as well as our top weapons all healthy, this is not a game that the Bears can lose because there really won't be any excuses. It's we'll know what happened. It's going to be Matt Eberflus, but this will be the game to kind of cement our status as a team that the NFC should look out for, um, while taking down one of the top teams throughout the years in the NFC and the Rams. But uh, yeah, it's just one of those games that the Bears kind of, I won't say it's a must win, but at the same time, it kind of is. But uh, Isaac, oh, not Isaac, sorry. I'm going to toss this one to Joe. Joe, what are your thoughts going into this matchup versus the Rams? What do you kind of, what's the theme of this matchup? I guess is my question to you.
Okay, I do want to add in the Isaac's point. Yes, the Rams did come back and win that game, but they also got super, super lucky. They had a missed field goal from Jake Moody at the end that would have put uh the Niners up by 10. It was like a 50 plus yard field goal. So it's not an easy field goal, but like kickers are hitting that like crazy right now. So he missed a 50-yard field goal that would probably put them up by 10. They also had a block, not a block punt, but a punt return that or a kickoff return that put them at like the 50. Or it was a special teams play that put them at the 50. It wasn't like a block punt. It may have been a punt return, but whatever it was. That put them at like the 45, 50. So halfway down the field. Um, so like yes, they played well and played good at the end of that game, but that stuff doesn't happen every week. So I chalk that up to lucky. And yes, McVay's a great coach, and I think like I just said, he's a way better coach than Matt Eberflus. But it just that doesn't happen every week, and I think the Bears, with all the injuries the Rams have the better roster. We can all agree on that right now with the injuries the Rams have. But I do think that I don't know um yeah, I think that the Rams will give the Bears the best shot for them, best a good shot for their money, even though they're injured, and just because of McVay. Um, but with the McVay thing, Waldron comes from the McVay tree, and from the stuff I've listened to recently, apparently McVay likes to. I mean, and I guess if you watch the games, the Rams games too, McVay likes to throw it deep and like attack deep. So that's where Waldron gets it from, which isn't like a great thing because we've seen how well it's done for the Bears, but the Rams can also run the ball, which they they have had a little bit of trouble at the beginning of this year, obviously because their line is hurt. But Kyron Williams is still a really good running back. So I think stopping him is going to be the main thing the defense needs to do. Like him and Tutu Atwell are the two biggest threats, and Tutu is really like he did a little bit more than be a deep threat last week, but he's really the major concern is him going deep, which the Bears did let a 50-yard or a 44-yard pass to Alec Pierce up last week. So they got to shore that up. And then against the Texans, they had like seven uh, pass plays that went for 15 yards or more. Now, a lot of that was racked, but still, you gotta make those tackles to make sure that doesn't happen. Because if you give Tutu the chance to get catch and run, he's gonna burn you because he's fast. So just the Bears defense needs to play short tackling really well. And then offensively, and they get off a hot start. I mean, the last quarter of that game against Indy, they played really well. But the Colts have let up. Not the Colts, sorry. The Rams in the first three games have averaged 9.3 points allowed in the first quarter. The last the last 2 weeks, they've allowed 14 points to be scored in the first quarter. Um, the first week it was a little they didn't allow. I think it was 10 they allowed in the first, but they trailed every game they've been in from the start. Like I said last week, they got lucky to come back and win that game. But yeah, it's that's going to be the important part on offense to score early, and like I said, defense stop Tutu Atwell and uh, Kyron Williams. I had to think of how to say that. But yeah, Isaac, I'll kick it over to you. Or yeah, Isaac, I'll kick it over to you. What are your keys for the Bears here?
So I want to bring up a stat for the Bears offense. So 63.7% of Chicago's set of downs have reached third down, which is the highest in the league. So the league average is around 47%. And then there's another statistic I want to bring up really quick, but while I'm looking for it, the Bears have to just they can't be so conservative on first and second down. I feel like right now Waldron's game plan has been to just let's try to get to let's try to get a manageable third down instead of let's try to get a first down, right? So I think that obviously has to be cleared up. And then apart from the running game, I understand like Roshan Johnson is gonna get more looks on Sunday, and I feel like honestly, part of me feels like we are gonna see a better run game on Sunday. So I'm not too worried about that. What I am worried about is Waldron continuing to make the same mistakes, trying to use players who are not really built for these kind of situations. Like he was mentioning today in a press conference that um, Khalil Herbert was the short yardage red zone kind of back, and we didn't really see him much. I don't know if Herbert was the right guy for that. I think we should have used Roshan, especially at that fourth down play that we talked about. But besides that, I mean, just the Bears have to do better on second down. I know the Bears basically like they had the most third downs in the NFL. It was something crazy like that. Um, but I think the keys really it's really gonna come down to the coaching, I feel like, because one, I understand that the Bears have a lot healthier, a lot more players that are healthy, and on paper the Bears have a better roster right now, but if the offense isn't functioning like how we want it to look like, I don't know if there's a chance for us to really come away with a decisive victory. It might this I feel like this kind of feels like a type of game where it's going to come down to the last seconds and whoever has the ball, who can stop who. Um, but besides that, I do want to bring up something that I'm really critical on the coaching for this week because the more I've looked into it, the more I just don't think Matt Eberflus is the guy. And I want to bring this up. So he's 11-26 since he's become the Bears head coach, right? And these are the list of the names of coaches that he's beat. So in the first year, the Bears only won 3 games, but he did beat Kyle Shanahan and Bill Belichick. Um, Along with Lovie Smith, but that's one thing. And then last season he beat Ron Rivera, Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, which all of them aren't coaching anymore. And then he also beat Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell, which I get it. They're good head coaches, but again, they are in the division, so I kind of expect our coach to be able to defeat our divisional opponents. And then he also defeated Jonathan Gannon and Arthur Smith, which Arthur Smith isn't a head coach anymore as well. And then this season, he's only beaten first year head coach Brian Callahan. So I don't know if I have a lot of faith right now in Matt Eberflus. I do like what Waldron has been doing, or this press conference today, where he was taking accountability. He was saying, I got to be better. Um, Basically, Mercedes Lewis was also talking about it, where he said that there was a meeting and Waldron was like, you know what, like this is like we're gonna go through all the plays. You guys tell me what's not working. Let's like figure this out. We're grown men. We don't have to, hide or from each other or diss each other on the side. So I do think that there will be some uh like positives on the offense. I do think that we're gonna be trending in the right direction. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to capitalize on a win on Sunday. And Eli, I want to toss it to you. I want to ask you what are your thoughts on this?
So I just wanted to comment on your coaching list there. It's kind of eye-opening, isn't it? The fact that, like half of that list, they're either fired or aren't head coaches anymore. And that kind of brings up what we brought up last episode. And does what advantages does your head coach give you? And do they outweigh the negatives? And oftentimes with Matt Eberflus, it has not. So he's he's at a negative right now, and he's hurting the team more than he is helping the team. And that just brings it back to the hot seat conversation. But we've had that conversation. If you want to listen to that, you can go back to the previous episode and leave a comment, share, review, do whatever you need to do if you like what you're hearing. But no, I completely agree with everything you brought up there with Matt Eberflus. But um, to kind of toss it back to the matchup here, I like that you mentioned Kyron Williams because I do think that will be the main thing on Sunday for the Bears, and that tosses it back to Andrew Billings. If he can't go, that's he is the man up front. He is the run stuffer for this defense, um, which kind of brings up another interesting thing that happened today was the Bears did bring back fan favorite Travis Bell, defensive tackle, 7th round pick in 2023 for the Chicago Bears. They did say from numerous reports that he had a pretty good relationship with Gary Von Dexter and Zach Pickens. So, I don't expect him if Andrew Billings for whatever reason can't go. I don't expect, Travis Bell to come in and be the nose tackle and be that guy right off the bat. But it's just one of those cool little things for a guy like that to come back and maybe it brings back some positive vibes to the locker room. So that's always nice to see. But um, yeah, Kyron Williams will really be the deciding factor in this game. If the Bears can't stop the run, I think he will be the difference maker. But some other weapons that you guys have kind of mentioned for what the Bears could see on Sunday: Colby Parkinson at tight end, Hunter Long at tight end, Davis Allen at tight end, Tyler Johnson, number 18 there at wide receiver. Cooper Cup's not going to go, so he's on here, but I just obviously thought I'd mention Cooper Cup. He will not be good to go on Sunday. Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver, and Jordan Whittington at wide receiver. So it's a thin offense, thin offensive line, thin wide receiver room. Um, they're going to be pretty run heavy because they've seen that the Bears haven't done a great job so far this year. So expect that to happen. But yeah, I like the points you brought up there, Isaac. The matchup here against the Rams on Sunday. Joe, do you have anything else for this matchup?
I do just want to comment on when Isaac was naming off the coaches, Matt Eberflus beat. It's less about, I mean, it's a little bit about the coaches, but it's less about the coaches and more about the quarterbacks. He hasn't beaten, I think he's beaten one good quarterback. Like you said, he beat Bill Belichick,
Mhm.
but that his quarterback was Mac Jones. So you see that. And then Kyle Shanahan, that game was Trey Lance at quarterback, and it was a monsoon. So you got to take that into account. Uh, and then, I mean, Arthur Smith, who's not a head coach, but their quarterback was Desmond Ritter. So that's not good. He beat Gannon last year with the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray wasn't playing. Uh, it was, I don't know if at that point it was uh Josh Dobbs or who it was or Clayton Tune, but it was not a starter in the league. That's for sure. Uh, and then the Raiders last year, I mean, Josh McDaniels was their head coach at that point, but they didn't have a good quarterback either. I think that was I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a certified backup, and then I might have put up kind of at some point too. But yeah, they just haven't been good quarterbacks. I mean, they beat Jared Goff last year. Uh, that's pretty much the only good quarterback they beat. They should have beaten him twice, and they didn't. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I totally didn't connect the dots there. And that's why I'm really worried about Sunday because, Matt Eberflus not only has he not really beat a lot of good head coaches, but he also hasn't really beat a lot of good quarterbacks. And on Sunday, we happen to go against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Matthew Stafford. So it's very worrying for me because I feel like I've been a very optimistic fan for a long time, and right now this season it's hard for me to bet against the Rams when the Bears are playing like how they are, not on defense but more on offense and then with the coaching. And I did find the stat that the Bears only converted 5 out of their 59 second down plays into first downs this season. So that's a 8.5 success rate. And no other team in the league is under 18.8%. So if the Bears can't even convert any of like most of their second downs into first down, it's not really helpful for your rookie quarterback if the Bears are always going into third down and they can't even run the ball. Like, most teams when they're in third down and they have a good running team, like how we were last year, we would be able to get out of that pretty fine. But this season it's not the case. So, I mean,
so
it's like, what were you gonna mention something,
sorry.
Joe?
So I don't know if this is the same kind of statistic, but I was listening to somebody talk earlier, not about the Bears, but so there's thing called the stat that you brought up, success rate, but I think what I'm talking about is different. There's a, a whole overall different statistic called success rate, and that's like on first down, if you a successful play is if you gain 5 yards, half the distance, and then it's like 70% of the yards on second down, which is like that would mean it's like second and or third and three, and then obviously third and fourth down, a successful play is getting a first down. But so I don't know if that's the same thing. I was trying to find that statistic minute ago while we were talking, but I couldn't just to see where the Bears stand. But it can't be high because they're not playing good on first down. They're usually behind the sticks. So none of those stats can be high or
Yeah, and
are
that's
high.
yeah, and that's the thing with this offense so far this year is that first down, sure, maybe we get two or 3 yards, if that, probably two, closer to two is the average so far. So right there, you're 2nd and 8. Second down, we've seen passing, you know, and I get it. We want to be this new offense with all these new weapons, and we want to be this pass heavy offense, but most of the time it hasn't worked. So right there, you're already in 3rd and 8. What's going to happen on third down? A pass. That's what's we've been falling into this trap this year is we're in obvious passing situations. And that's what's contributed to just not moving the ball down the field. So it's not surprising that um, whatever the statistic is there, the success rate or the lack of third down conversions, both of them, it's obvious what's happening because teams know what's going to happen and they can simplify their defense. Just the fact that we haven't been able to run the ball, we're getting ourselves into a situation where the defense almost knows what we're going to run before we do. And that's not the situation you want to be in. But um, that's going to have to change this Sunday against a head coach like Sean McVay because he will tear us apart if we're in a situation where we're throwing the ball 50 times again. That's not a game you're going to win against Sean McVay. But yeah, it's gonna be a dandy for sure. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
I'm kind of with you, Isaac. I don't have a lot of faith in. I won't say the team because I do because there's a lot of talent and we know what it can be. Um, but this coaching staff right now is just holding them back from being what they can be. But yeah, I think with that we can probably, unless you guys have anything else, we can transition into our score predictions for this matchup.
Yeah, sounds good. I just
All
want to
right.
add on that I don't have faith in the coaching staff. Like what you said, Eli, I do have a lot of faith in the players because the players have shown that they are all super talented and they have the ability to win games. But if we just have an offense that doesn't work, and the coaches making questionable play calls every game, questionable plays, trying to challenge plays that are obviously, good plays and stuff like that. It's frustrating.
All right. No, I completely agree. And I will add something too, just because I thought of it while you were talking. If Roshan is the feature back this week, and he should be, and by all reports, it seems like he's going to be. If he comes into this game and averages over 4 yards a carry, I'm getting the jersey 100% because I have been on the Roshan train ever since he was drafted because you saw right away the potential this dude has. So if he comes in right away and it ended up just being a DeAndre Swift problem, I'm buying the jersey and I'm not looking back. I'm going to wear it for every game for the rest of the year. Maybe he's the good luck charm we need. Um, but I will start off these scoring predictions, and then Isaac, I'll toss it to you after that. We've talked about it throughout this entire episode, and we just talked about it now. The lack of faith in this coaching staff. You know, and through 3 weeks, I have picked the Bears to win every single game, like a homer should. Um, I should not have picked the Bears to beat the Texans because, that was just not a good idea. But for this week, I unfortunately will not be picking the Bears to win this game. I do think we'll fall to 1-3, but I do think we will see some positives from this offense moving forward. I just think if we were to if we were to have been in a hole, I wish these games kind of would have been flip-flopped. I wish we would have played the Rams in week 3 and then went to Indy the next week. Um, but that wasn't the case. Indy was a game we should have won. So now we're gonna be in a hole. Um, and we're gonna be 1-3 just because I don't think I don't think the coaching staff is good enough to beat Sean McVay right now. So I'm going to go Rams 24, Bears 19. I think the Rams are going to unfortunately beat us, but we're going to see a much more balanced offense this week. So yeah, Rams 24, Bears 19. Isaac, what are your thoughts on this score prediction for the Rams Bears game?
Yeah, and just to quickly bring it back to what you were mentioning about Roshan Johnson, that would be awesome. I mean, I would be so happy if Roshan could get more than 4 yards a carry, and definitely get the jersey because he's a good player and he hopefully he'll be on this team for a long time. But to go to the record prediction, I am on the same boat with you, Eli. I picked the Titans to win. Or I picked the Bears to beat the Titans. The week after, I just thought Houston was too good of a team to lose to a team like the Bears, so I did pick the Texans. And then unfortunately last week, we all thought that the Bears were gonna win and it was gonna be this get right game, and it wasn't, unfortunately. But yeah, I think this game it's gonna be hard because it's I feel like the Bears are gonna end up losing. First of all, I just want to mention that. But I do think that there's gonna be a lot of positives to take away from the game. I feel like the offense is gonna look a lot better than it was the last 3 weeks. The defense is obviously gonna continue to be dominant. But I just can't see Matt Eberflus beating Sean McVay, especially when Matthew Stafford's playing. So my my game score would be, I would say 17 for the Rams and maybe 13 for the Bears, kind of similar to like the Houston Texans game. I think that's a reasonable score. And toss it over to Joe. What do you think about who's gonna win in this matchup on Sunday?
Okay, so you guys are making me look like the optimist, which I'm surprised by. Because you guys have been pretty optimistic the first 3 weeks. But I this is a must-win game. I think you guys said it earlier. It's a must-win game. The Bears have to win this if they want any shot at. I mean, this is far off, and I know we've sucked. We've not been good the first 3 weeks, but if they want any shot at making the playoffs in January, like as a wild card, they need to win this game. So I have them winning, especially with all the injuries, which is crazy because at the beginning of the season, I had the Rams winning this game. But the injuries for the Rams are, I think, going to be too much. Bears 24-21, finally putting up the most points they have all year. I mean, they put up 16 last week. I think they finally crossed 20. Uh, and the Bears defense plays better than they did last week. They didn't play bad last week, but also Richardson was missing a bunch of passes. If Richardson didn't miss as much as he did, as many passes as he did, I think it'd have been a lot worse for the Bears defense, but he just wasn't playing good. So, yeah, like I said, 24-21 Bears.
We needed at least one person to pick the Bears, or else I would have gotten off of this call pretty sad. But I like that you picked the Bears to win, and I really hope they do. I hope me and Isaac are both wrong with this matchup, and Joe, you add to your win total here. But um, yeah, I completely get it. I think this is a game the Bears need to win if they're going to avoid falling into this 1-3 hole, which has often been tough for teams to come out of if we think the Bears can get to where we want them to be. But um, yeah, at least one of us had to pick the Bears to win, so I'm glad you did, Joe. Uh, but something we haven't done in past episodes that we kind of want to get into is matchups between other teams in the NFC North, what they've got going on. And there's the first, I believe this will be the first NFC North matchup this year, if I'm not mistaken. If not, then it's okay too. But
No, you're right.
Vikings,
Correct.
Yeah.
that's right. Okay, perfect. Vikings and Packers will be taking each other on this week in a pretty interesting matchup. We've seen the Vikings, the team we all thought was going to be at the bottom of the NFC North this year. Unfortunately, that's kind of us right now. We're back into this hole. But the Vikings are 3-0, looking to keep this thing rolling, and they've beaten quality opponents this year in the Texans and some other teams throughout this league. But I think this will be an interesting one because presumably, I think Jordan Love will be ready to go this week.
That's what it
Uh,
sounds like, but
yeah, I'm like, if I'm them going up against a Brian Flores defense, it's a tough call to make. And I'm kind of with you, Isaac. I don't know if I would rush him back because all the reports that have come out about Jordan Love is that he's going to be below 100%. And Brian Flores puts on a pretty mean defense. So, uh, God forbid he would get hurt again in a divisional matchup. But uh, I don't know if I have a score prediction for this one because Green Bay is one of those teams that can just about hang with anybody. And you don't know if the Sam Darnold thing is a surefire thing this year, or if it's just a Linsanity run or not. I won't say it is, but um, I think the Vikings take this one. But at the same time, I think Green Bay will make it a closer game than the Vikings have let on this year. So uh, I've got the Vikings winning this one. Isaac, I'll toss it to you. What are your thoughts on this Vikings Packers NFC North showdown?
Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points, Eli, and I agree with you. I think that Jordan Love shouldn't play. If I was a Packers fan, I wouldn't want Jordan Love to play because even if he was gonna play on Sunday, he's probably not gonna be 100%, and he's playing against a Brian Flores team that is putting on an absolute show on defense. They are so good. And it's just really hard for me to not pick the Vikings to win. And I think that what's going to end up happening is that Malik Willis is going to play on Sunday because the Packers are smart. I'm pretty sure they're not going to want to rush Jordan Love anyways. And I think that the Vikings defense is just going to be too much for Willis. And it's going to be the first, like, well, like maybe the Packers, like, they're not as good as we thought they were, but at the same time, the Vikings are just playing really well right now. And I wanted to toss it over to Joe. What were your thoughts on this game?
Here's the thing. I agree with everything you guys said. But it's also very hard to win in Lambeau. No matter when you go there, whether it's -5 out or nice and sunny at like 60 degrees. It's not easy to win in Lambeau. They defend their home field really nicely. I don't think it matters who the quarterback is. I do agree with you guys. I think that Jordan Love shouldn't play just because if he plays and even if he says he's 100%, there's no way he's 100%, and he won't be able to move, and he's gonna get hit like hell if he plays because Brian Flores, even though I don't think he's been blitzing as much as he did last year, he likes to blitz, and that front can get after you. So I wouldn't play Jordan Love, but he's probably going to play. I think the Vikings win this game though. Uh, I'd be surprised if they don't. Let's say like 28-21, 28-24 Vikings, 28-24. It's going to be high scoring. They can both put on some points, even though this is going to be the first game where Brian Flores' defense doesn't look as dominant. They're still going to look dominant no matter what quarterback they play. They'll get 3 or 4 sacks probably, but they're going to let up some points because Matt LaFleur could really coach and put together a good game plan on offense. Not that Kyle Shanahan can't, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we could all three agree if it were possible, both of these teams could just lose in embarrassing fashion, but that's not how the sport of football works. So
They
looks
could
like
tie.
they could tie, and I think that would probably be best case scenario for us. But uh, probably not likely. Hopefully that's what happens, but we're all going to pick the Vikings in a clean sweep for this one. So moving on to the next matchup in the NFC North, it will be the Detroit Lions at 2-1 versus the Seattle Seahawks at a surprising 3-0 record. I'll start this one off as well. This is a game throughout the last few years that seems to average about 100 points per game between both teams. This is just somehow always a great matchup. It's one of those games that I really always enjoy watching because it's always high scoring. It's just good football. But this year, I don't think it's going to be the same. I think this is one of those matchups in one of these years where scoring has been down. And personally, I don't think the Lions' offense has looked as dominant as it has in the last few years. But because Jameson Williams, I can't remember what game it was this year, but he had a dominant performance and then he fell off the face of the earth again, which we've kind of seen throughout his NFL career. They always have a great backfield with Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs back there, so I think it's going to be kind of a run heavy matchup for this Detroit offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown's always a great receiver, and I might be mistaken, but I think Laporta got injured last
He
week,
did.
so I don't think he'll be good to go this week. And Seattle's one of those teams to where you don't know what you're going to get offensively week in and week out because kind of the same deal with them. JSN for them, Jackson Smith and Jigba was I can't remember what week it was. Again, I'm scatterbrained. I'm always primarily focused on the Bears, but JSN had a monster week one week, and you thought, finally, here he is. This is what we kind of saw from him coming out of Ohio State. And then they just didn't go to him anymore. And I don't think that's an indictment on Geno Smith at all. I think it's just the way the game flows in Seattle. And it's going to be a weird one, but I think this is a game where Detroit kind of rights the ship. They don't have a bad record at all, but I think this is kind of a game where you're going to see Detroit get back into their style of offense. So I'm going to take it in a lower scoring game than it has been. I think it's going to be Detroit 27, Seattle 23. I think it's a type of game like that has been. I don't remember what year it was, but there was one year where it was like an overtime 54-51 kind of thing, and it was like, whoa, like that was awesome. But I don't think it'll be replicated this year. So Isaac, I will toss it to you. Your thoughts on this Lions Seahawks Monday night matchup?
Yeah, what you were talking about, JSN, it was week 2 against the Patriots. He actually got 12 catches for 117 yards. And then the other, so week 1, he only got 2 catches. Last week, he only got 3 catches. So yeah. But I'll just be quick because you made a lot of great points. I've seen on almost like every quarterback metric on Twitter, Geno Smith is always on the top right. I mean, this Geno Smith has been playing lights out. So. And then me being a Bears fan, I do want to see the Lions lose, obviously. So I do think that it's going to end up being a Seahawks win instead of a Lions win. And it's going to probably be around the same amount of points that you mentioned, Eli. It would probably be like 27-23, just the other team winning, the Seahawks winning. And then I'll toss it over to you, Joe. What do you think about the Seahawks versus Lions on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't seen a lot of Seahawks football. I watched the Lions on Sunday Night Football in Week 1. Uh, they didn't look as good as they did the past 2 years, but they still look pretty good. I know the Seahawks are 3-0 though, but they've also beaten teams like the Broncos who aren't very good. Um, so this is gonna definitely be a test for the Seahawks. Uh, unlike you guys, I mean, I should hate the Lions because this is obviously a Bears podcast, but like I like Dan Campbell. I think he's a really good coach and also just a fun dude. I mean, obviously I don't know him personally, but like he seems like a fun dude, and the biting kneecap stuff is funny. Um, so I root for the Lions when we don't play the Lions. When we play the Lions, obviously go Bears, and we're gonna kick your teeth in all the time. Um, but I got the Lions here. I think they'll keep keep them on the ground and pound it down the Seahawks' throat. I don't really know how good the run defense is. I know it's been bad the past couple of years. I don't know if it got better this season, but uh, I'll go 27-24. One more point for the losing team, but pretty close to what you guys have. But the Lions win.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm not a Detroit guy. I think they've just got a little too big for their britches these last few years, but it's understandable when you win as many games as they have these last few years. So understandable, but uh, you never know. I also picked Detroit. Not really, didn't really want to, but that's completely fine also. But let's see. I picked. I think we all three picked the Vikings to win. I picked Detroit. Joe picked Detroit also, and Isaac, you picked Seattle. So there you have it for those as well. And then me and Isaac both picked the Rams to win this matchup, and Joe is the optimist this week and picked the Bears to win. And one of us had to do it, so I appreciate it, Joe, for sure. I think that is going to wrap it up, unless you guys have anything else. All right.
Other than, please leave a like, comment, share, whatever. Help us grow, please. I know we don't usually ask, but it's time to start.
For sure, man. Awesome. Yeah, you heard what he said. Go leave us a like, share, tell your friends, listen on your way to work, whenever. Show us some love. I will leave you with this quote from Matthew Stafford regarding Caleb Williams. Uh, Quote, he's obviously immensely talented. He makes plays every single week that you see on TV that blow you away as a quarterback. I sit there and go, man, that is some incredible stuff. I'm sure there are plays he wants back, like all of us. He seems like a sharp kid, obviously really talented. I'm sure he'll figure it out, and more as he continues to play. I'm sure he is going to have a great career. So there you have it from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matthew Stafford. Before this matchup between the Bears and Rams, we'll leave you with that. This has been the Bear Down Buzz podcast. Go Bears. Let's hopefully get a win this week. Joe's more the optimist this week. Once again, let's hope he's right and the Bears improve to 2-2 rather than 1-3. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Bear Down Buzz podcast. We will see you hopefully after a victory. So we'll see you on a victory Monday.